Joining us now, Fox News contributor Ari Fleischer and House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. You know, Ari, a lot of people show up. So the close election, we got thin margins. Really, you know, they're looking for like 4 weeks to make sure all these ballots showed up apparently. Magically, 2 weeks later. How did 2,600 ballots show up magically 2 weeks later, Ari? Does that instill confidence in the American people?
No, of course it doesn't instill confidence, and Georgia's got some explaining to do. The people in charge of that county have some explaining to do. I'm glad they announced it. I'm glad they didn't try to sweep it under the rug. It looks like the president might pick up a net 800 votes as a result of this. Can he pick up more? Are there other similarities in other counties? That's why it's important to pursue this. The margin is still a high margin, but it's important to pursue it.
I totally agree. All right, Steve, as you look at what the efforts that are going on here, you've been there for the last 4 years. Have Democrats, the ones that were pushing the phony Russia hoax or the impeachment hoax, did they ever accept Donald Trump's election win in 2016? I don't recall that they did. I don't remember that they did.
No, Sean, and in fact, if you saw the first few months, they denied the fact that he won the election, and then the next 4 years, they tried to reverse the will of the people by first this impeachment hoax, and there was a search for a crime for months and months, and they never found a crime, so they impeached him anyway because they didn't like him or the fact that millions of people showed up who hadn't voted before. And so the forgotten men and women of this country haven't gone away. There's still a lot of anger out there about the fact that there were widespread irregularities in a select number of states. You know, they're boarding up windows, not letting poll watchers watch what's going on, even though the state laws say that. And then they wonder why people question the results or the integrity of the process. Look, if Florida can have a full count of a large state with a lot of absentee ballots and the result was known by 10 p.m., why can't a state like Pennsylvania or Georgia do the same thing? And I think that's the question a lot of people are asking. And why did they stop counting in a few of those states when Trump was way ahead? And then mysteriously the next morning, all of a sudden that lead's shrinking and shrinking until it goes away. That's what really gets a lot of people raising these kind of serious questions.
I think, Ari, one of the more frustrating things to me is, you know, all the election laws, the statutory language, talk about partisan observers being allowed to observe. Now, obviously with COVID, they could have made accommodations for social distancing so that Democrats and Republican partisan observers by law would be allowed to do it. They didn't do it in so many states. I don't even see any remedy for that, do you?
No, not ex post facto. I mean, what you have to hope is that people are literally in the room, and they have to be in the room to see the nitty-gritty. They have to be in the room to see actually if the signatures do indeed match. That's how you build faith and confidence. The other issue that doesn't involve human eyeballs are these machines. The machine in Nevada that would verify whether or not a signature matched the signature on the file had settings on it, and it could be set up to 100%, which would rule out any little deviation in signature, or it could be set at 0%, which everything gets in. It was set at 40%. It was set so you had to really work hard to throw out a ballot because you could have a substantial deviation from the signature on file and they'd still count it. Why was it preset at 40%? Why not 50, 60, 70? Why wasn't it set at a level where you really did have a lot of confidence the only signatures would be the ones that matched, particularly since Nevada had never before mailed ballots in the general election to all its voters? So these are some of the legitimate questions that should be run to ground, and we should learn from it so in the next election both sides can say, yes, we have confidence.
And there were 2 signature verification standards in Georgia. You know, Congressman Scalise, last word for you. You know, you were a victim of violence. You nearly lost your life on that ball field that day. And you watch what happened this weekend. What are your thoughts when you see this? What's going on here? And it's been happening all summer. Democrats mostly ignore it.
Yeah, you know, everybody in America should be alarmed. The mainstream media should be covering this regardless of who they're going after. And why is it? And by the way, you don't see these wide-scale Trump supporters going and attacking other people. But if Trump supporters are attacked, it's almost like a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it. They don't want to report it. But it's still disturbing, and it's not what America's about. The fact that if you disagree with somebody, you know, this cancel culture needs to be pushed back against, where, you know, if you're on a college campus, they won't let you talk if you're a conservative because they're so insecure of their beliefs that they don't want to hear an alternative thought that actually talks about and promotes free market capitalism, or the individual freedoms and the abilities of us to control our own destiny. That's what's the most disturbing, is that these local mayors that let this stuff happen. The defunding police thing is a real concern. It's why Democrats had so many problems. They're still trying to ignore the fact that they got beat in large part in a lot of these House seats because they supported defund the police. But you can rename it whatever you want. People want law enforcement at the local level. Some of these mayors that are allowing this kind of mob violence to go on are only hurting their cities because people are fleeing. Go look at New York City. Look at Los Angeles, California.
Well, remember, and then they have the whole defund the police. Scary. All right. Thank you both.